Yo, what's up? How you doing? This is Renz. Welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz. Gotta apologize for being so late today. Had a late start. Alarm clock went off. I turned it off by accident. That's the whole big excuse because we gotta be truthful and honest about everything that goes on. But I want to appreciate everybody who joins this channel, who subscribes, who shares the videos. Please continue to share and subscribe. I know some of you may have thought that I'm not going to be on today because it's an hour late, but we are here. Uh, we try to continue to make things happen. Today we are going to continue our discussion on every Tuesday is what's wrong with the Bible. So for right now, until we decide to stop this series, we don't know what book we're going to stop at, but it's Tuesday, so it's What's Wrong with the Bible Tuesday. Today is Exodus 23 and 24. We are going word for word, chapter for chapter. Some of it has sometimes there's something that's good about it. Sometimes there's benign stuff. Sometimes there's jacked up stuff. And we point out all of it. But this continues to help us, for those of us who are walking, who have decided to deconstruct, who are walking away from this religion or any religion. This is aimed to help us to continue to affirm ourselves, to develop ourselves in that decision. Many people, whether you realize it or not, many people struggle after they make this decision. Many people will struggle, and they go through this time of being disturbed. And during that time of disturbance, this is when you need to affirm why you made your decision. And by going through this book, studying this book, understanding all the jacked up things within this book, the cultural, contextual things within this book, because all of it is not because it's jacked up. Sometimes it's just because you can walk away and realize that this was written for a culture of a people at a certain time as propaganda or just for their culture. So that idea that this book is for all times is easily gotten rid of. So that's the purpose of this. If you're a Christian, I ain't trying to convert you. If you happy where you at, stay where you at. You know, this is for people who've made the decision to walk away. But I am Coach Renz. My journey has been that since I was 9 years old, I began to study this book. I began to walk away from this book. I started questioning. I don't say walk away at 9. I started questioning this book at 9, questioning those who interpreted it, questioning those who wrote the doctrines, who was teaching and preaching. And by the time I was, by the time I was 25, I had completely walked away from this book after traveling to Egypt and Israel and to the Vatican and then so on and so forth, and then studying. I didn't have the internet to study with like we do today, but to be able to um, talk to scholars, to go into the libraries, and I spend you know what 40 years. Wow. Yeah, almost 40 years of my life studying. Is it 40? Yeah, damn. More than 40 years of my life studying this book, looking for answers and not finding them. And this is where we land. So I'm happy that we have the internet because it was very lonely when I was coming up because I was the only vibe in my tribe. I was the only vibe in my tribe. But now we have each other. And that's where we grow and get strength from each other. So this is what we do on Tuesdays. Uh, Evidently Monday's been a crapshoot because my days have been thrown off on Mondays. Wednesdays, we usually talk about relationships, but I'm gonna make Wednesday kind of like we can talk about personal things. We want to do personal development on Wednesdays, or what, Thursday, we're doing the Kabbalion right now. This Thursday, so y'all wanted it, we're doing it. It got interrupted last Thursday because my son came home from the Air Force, but we're going through the Kabbalion on Thursdays. Fridays is whatever we throw. So uh, we're going to continue. And I know I started late, so we're not going to BS around too much because, somebody may walk here. I own a cigar lounge and we open at noon. But, as long as nobody walks in the door that would be offended, we continue, right? Right. Um, Religious trauma syndrome occurs when an individual struggles with believing in religion or a set of beliefs that has, they got a term for it now? You didn't realize that. So to everybody on Facebook, you Facebook up top, YouTube down below, Grand Rising, good morning. How you guys doing? Let's get started. All right, so we are in Exodus 21, 22. Whole bunch of laws that we know that people don't follow, don't study today, that they don't commit themselves to, that they would not, that societal norms would not allow them to do so. We're going to continue with, and those were mostly dealing with animals and women and, bulls goring people and what to do if a bull gores somebody. Those were we dealt with that last week, right? Yes, people do get all butt hurt, but we just keep it moving. But this is another reason why we study this book, so that you can arm yourself. How they say, put on the full armor of God, put on the full armor of you. I'm gonna start using that. Put on the full armor of you. All right. So now we're going to get into a bunch of some laws that are to the individual person, as well as laws as far as the Sabbath are concerned. And then we're going to see God come down in his spaceship, and the contradictory also in the visitation of God. And that's what we're going to see in 23 and 24 today. So let's get started so we can get through this part. So if there are other questions, statements, other conversations we want to have, we can have time to get into those as well. So as I read, and I probably should put on my glasses. Well, let me see if I can go without my glasses first. Do not spread false reports. Do not help a guilty person by being a malicious witness. Well, that's a good start. I thought he already said don't lie, but this one is actually a little bit different from when he said, don't lie. He was saying that was in reference to don't take oaths. That's why you'll see Christians, some Christians will not take an oath to the Constitution, an oath to the military, an oath to a fraternity or sorority. This is why some of them won't take oaths. This is why some Jews won't take oaths. But this one is saying don't lie, like straight up, just don't lie, as like you and I talking. Do not help a guilty person by being a malicious witness. Again, don't help. So when y'all, what say, snitches get stitches, it's telling you to snitch. It's telling you to snitch. So if you're a Christian, Jew, Muslim, you're supposed to be snitching. Your boy killed somebody, snitch. You're because do not help a guilty person by being a malicious witness. Don't snitch. Snitch on them rather. Snitch on them. Your wife killed somebody, you're supposed to snitch on her. I know our Constitution, the way our laws are written, you don't have to testify against your spouse. But basically, that's what that's saying. So, snitches get stitches? Nah, snitches get riches, according to the Bible. Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. We know that is not followed at all. So I get you every time. Snitch on them. But listen, okay, this one. This is gonna be so. Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. Now, most of us can identify with that to a certain degree, where we say, you see a crowd, they're rioting, you should join in and riot with them, right? Even when we say it's righteous rioting because of something happening. But let's look at this a little bit different. If you're black in America, if you're black, period, and you're looking at American history, none of the white Christians who gave this religion to our ancestors read that line, do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. The white lady claimed Emmett Till smiled at her. They followed the crowd. This lady got to live a full life. She died at what, like 90 or something like that? And let's look at this whole thing. It said, do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd, and do not show favoritism to a poor person in a lawsuit. It's telling them not to do damn near everything that they did in Jim Crow. Damn near everything that white people did towards black people during Jim Crow, it tells them don't do it. How many black people during Jim Crow were falsely accused of a crime, given life sentences or death sentences, and the crowd just followed. One of the books I remember reading, To Kill a Mockingbird, because they wanted us, to me, we read that book because they wanted to show that some white people are good, right? But we read Huck Finn too, and Tom Sawyer, right? And I understand they were trying to talk about anti-slavery and that sort of thing in those books. They gave us those books. But the true reality of what was going on in the majority of people's lives is they were not listening to this. They were following the crowd. People are born into religions. When you're born into a religion and you continue in that religion simply because you was born in it and you've decided to make your experience fit, you're following a crowd. I do agree with not showing favoritism to a poor person in a lawsuit. If a person is wrong, a person is wrong. I'm just saying. Your amount of wages shouldn't matter. Sorry, my eyes are a little bit red. My allergies is kicking my ass yesterday and today. But that whole thing of not following the crowd, we see that is not something that was done. And then later on, we're going to see where everybody follows the crowd. But it just told you not to follow the crowd. But I guess if it's for your God, then follow the crowd. Yeah. I mean, they had their crusades. They were following the crowds, because the Pope said so. I'm also working on a video that should get published within the next few days about how the papacy created the transatlantic slave trade and the dehumanization of Black people. And then, of course, that proliferated through Protestantism and all the other religions of Christianity. All right. I'm working on that. Just happened to come up in my mind because of what I just said. Okay, so we got to continue. Can't stay on one point too long. If you come across your enemy's ox or donkey wandering off, be sure to return it. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you falling down under its load, do not leave it there. Be sure to help them with it. It's interesting, these types of laws, and of course we can extrapolate them to what they would be similar to in today's world. So in today's world, if you come across your enemy's donkey and it's wandering off, be sure to return it. So you see somebody's pet, it wanders off, be sure to return it. You see somebody's child wanders off, be sure to return it, your enemy's child. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you falling down under his load, you see someone who's broken down on the side of the road in their car, you should be stopping. There should not be one. Anytime somebody's on the side of the road and their car's broken there should literally be hundreds of cars pulling over to help that person out, because the majority of people in this country are Christians or Islamic or Jews. And because they are one of those three religions, they should adhere to this. But of course, this is not taught in church, but they should adhere to this and be pulling over simply because they are told to. If a KKK person sees a Black person who's pulled over, who's on the side of the road, the KKK members should automatically pull over if they're following this. If you're Black and you see a KKK member pulled over, or one of them dudes with the rebel flags pulled over, on the side of the road, damaged car, you should automatically pull over, because it says specifically, you see someone who hates you falling down under the load, you should go there. Don't leave them there. Be sure to help them with it. If you come across your enemy. So it's not like, oh, I see another, you in a sorority, you a Delta and you see another Delta on the side of the road, or you a Q and you see another Q, that's your boy, you pull over. No, this is, I see my enemy. I see the rebel flag. I see the Black dude and I'm a KKK member. That's what the books say. Do not deny justice do not deny justice to your poor people in their lawsuits. Well, we know they didn't do that to Black people. We know that didn't happen. I've been helped a lot by others. I have had my car pulled out of the ditch and the car jumped, and so many. That's cool. But we know people don't follow this rule according to their religion. And Erica, you're a lady. People are more apt. They did this study and they showed that people are more apt to pull over to help a woman than they are to pull over and help a man. And then determine, based on how good looking the woman is, more people help the better looking woman than the other. Yeah. Where we at? Do not deny justice to your poor people in their lawsuits. It's a good thing. Just because somebody's poor, they shouldn't have, their lawsuit should have merit. But we know that in this country, especially, or actually any country in the world and throughout time, the more money somebody has, the better they can get justice. But we know that justice doesn't always go to people who can't afford lawyers. If you've ever had a court-appointed lawyer, you would understand that. Those jokers suck. I remember in 1999, I went up against a prosecutor. I beat his ass because he wasn't that good at what he was talking about. And I walked out of there with the cases, all things dropped because it was all self-defense anyway. But we know poor people don't get justice in the lawsuits. We know this. And we know it's this, our justice system is supposed to be based on the commandments of this Bible. Have nothing to do with a false charge. We know that that didn't happen to our people in America. And do not put an innocent or honest person to death. We know that still does not happen. For I will not acquit the guilty. All right. But we know that guilty people get away with stuff and live their entire lives, have gotten away with something, and somebody else have paid the price for it. So this God has not been true to his word. And there are people who are Christian, who are Jews, who are Muslims, who are Abrahamic. I'm gonna just start saying Abrahamic, start to say all that. Who are Abrahamic, and they were Abrahamic before they went, Abrahamic when they were falsely accused, Abrahamic when they was falsely found guilty. They were Abraham when they went into the system, and they died Abrahamic. And the person who did the crime didn't get shit. That white lady who claimed Emmett Till, looked at her, went her whole life as a Christian woman. For I will not acquit the guilty. She lived until she was 90 something and had a whole full life. For I will not acquit the guilty. She got to have the love of her family all around her throughout her life. For I will not acquit the guilty. And a dumbass Abrahamic will say, she will be judged in heaven. While Emmett Till never had a chance to live a life, while his mother had to go through what she went through, the Chicago community went through what they went through. What? She'll get her reward in heaven. Emmett gets his reward in heaven. And they were a Christian family. This Bible is something. These people don't follow this book. To continue. Do not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds those who see and twist the words of the innocent. We already know that they accept bribes. Government doesn't even function without bribe. It's called lobbying. We have that built into our system of lobbying. But that's a good rule, though. You shouldn't accept bribes. Bribes do twist the way that you handle things. Do not oppress these are actually good rules. It's just people don't follow them. Right? And we know that people are not, and they're not. But that whole part for I will not acquit the guilty, that's when you started the slippery slope there, bro. That's where your impression as being a God is not valid. It doesn't show itself because people get away with shit all the time. Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourself know how it feels to be a foreigner because you were foreigners in Egypt. Yes, I'm not reading. You heard that before because that was in a couple of chapters ago where he said the exact same thing. But we know that these people oppress foreigners. Hell, in a few minutes, as we go through this book, it's going to tell you that you're going to go in there and genocide a whole bunch of people, but it says don't oppress foreigners. In a minute here, in a couple of lines for some of your Sabbath stuff, in a couple of verses, you got slaves. Slavery in itself is oppression. You cannot, I don't care how good the master is, the mere fact that slavery is allowed to exist in this book is oppressing. And of course, we know as you get into Leviticus that a foreigner who is your slave is chattel slavery. You can pass them down generation to generation. So if there is no oppression of the foreigners, there will be no slavery. So there's a contradiction within itself to have slavery. If there was no oppression of foreigners, you wouldn't be just taking women as slave wives and treating women like trash. But we know that this book does it, right? Jeremy said he pulls over and help people. That's good, and you should. Most religious people don't. Sabbath laws. All right, verse 10. I had to think about this one for a while, so maybe y'all can help me out. For 6 years you are to sow your fields and harvest the crops. But during the 7th year, let the land lie unplowed and unused. Then the poor among you may get food from it, and the wild animals may eat what is left. Do the same with your vineyards and your olive groves. Now tell me if I'm crazy, but this is how I understand this. In order to move this into today's world, for today's understanding, and you know good and goddamn on well nobody's doing this. This would be that if you are somebody who follows this Sabbath law, because this is a Sabbath law, 7 years work, 1 year don't run your business. That's basically what it's saying. For 7 years, let's say I was a 7-day Adventist, right? So if I was a 7-day Adventist, that means that for 6 years, I am to run this business. But then on the 7th year, I am not to run this business because but during the 7th year, let the land lie unplowed and unused. So I shouldn't, I don't do nothing. I don't run the business for the 7th year. Then the poor among you may get food from it. Okay, because when you are farming, indeed, I know some stuff about farming. And my pappy taught me some things. When you farm, of course, even after, if you skip a year of farming, the land will still produce. There's still going to be seed in the ground. Okay, especially if you don't plow up the ground, there will still be seed in the ground. Some types of seeds, they will still grow. Most likely the same crop that you had before. You also get, other seeds blowing in, other things may grow. This is also a good idea for crop rotation because it helps to refertilize the soil. You see, my pappy taught me that every 7th year you rotate the crop, or you plant alfalfa, let it grow, let it die, revitalize the soil. But in this instance, share one's 7th worth. This is charity. Is it sharing one's worth? Yeah, that you're right. You're sharing that worth, the 7th worth. But it's saying that you don't plow the land yourself. You leave it unused. We're not farmers. If you're not a farmer, you own a cigar lounge, right? I'm supposed to leave it unused. I'm not supposed to work it, but allow for the poor to come and work it that year so that they may get some food, so that they may make some money. Because that's when it says, then the poor among you may get food from it, and the wild animals may eat what is left. Do the same with your vineyards and your olive groves. So in today's world, that would be, unless I'm crazy, either I still work it, but let a poor person take all the money, or not, right? So now, of course, people will translate that differently in order to fit how our culture is today. If you are giving the poor people, give charity. And I'm doing a video about tithe and charity later on today as well. I don't know when it's going to get published, but if you look at it from the standpoint of how people may look at it and say, okay, you give during year 1 through 6, but on year 7, you're supposed to give a lot. That's when you give everything. If this is like Jubilees, you're supposed to give more. And I have heard pastors who, although they won't be Jewish, they won't claim to be Jewish, but anytime there's the year of Jubilees, oh boy, they talk about the giving. You got to give strong. It's the year of Jubilees. What you give in this year, then God is really going to show his blessings towards you based on what you, okay, you see what I'm saying? So that's how I understood that you're supposed to be giving away all from your business, from however you make money, you're supposed to be giving that away to people during the 7th year. So that means in 6 years, you need to save up enough money so that you can live the 7th year without profiting from whatever methodology you make your living. So we know that shit ain't happening, but that's how I understood that. But we know people will twist that one very quickly. This is where, when you can if you bring this up to somebody, they will say that you're reading this out of context, but that is the only context for this statement right here. All right. So let me continue, because we're going to get to some hypocrisy of the treatment of the foreigners already. 6 days you are to work, but on the seventh day do not work, so that your oxen and your donkey may rest, so that the slave born in your household and the foreigners living among you may be refreshed. I'm still not understanding how I can, I'm supposed to not oppress foreigners, but yet they're my slaves. And then what's the slave master? He resting? Slave and doing all the work. What you resting for? What you resting? At least during Saturnalia, the slave got to act like the master, and the master acted like the slave. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, that'd be a good one. Ask the mega churches to give their seventh year up. Ask boy, and to keep their doors open to the poor for shelter on any day. Boy, Jerome, Jerome in the house. Jerome, boy, they will kick you out. They will drag you through the mud if you came to the church and say that. The mega churches said, you know how much money they make in a year? Ooh. All right, hey. All right, let me continue, because we got to get through this, and we are so far behind. Be careful to do everything I have said to you. Do not invoke the name of other gods. Do not let them be heard on your lips, because we know, this God is a jealous God, but he's supposed to be the only God. So why he's jealous of the imaginations of other people? But these were henotheistic people. They believed that these other gods existed at the time, so they were very fearful of their people going off and finding and worshiping other gods. That's why this God has human-like qualities. All right, so let's get more into the ego of this God. 3 times a year, you are to celebrate a festival to me. That's right. Because just like them first 4 10 commandments was all about me, I want y'all to celebrate y'all's holiday celebration. 3 of them about me. I want my stuff. Right. You're right about that, Jerome. Anybody believe this is the literal word of God, they got problems. But you're celebrating 3 celebrations for you. Let's look at those celebrations. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. For 7 days, eat bread made without yeast, as I commanded you. Do this at the appointed time of the month of Aviv, for in that month you came out of Egypt. So this is, flatbread, basically. It's basically flatbread. So for 7 days, you got to eat some flatbread. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. So even if you're poor and you're broke, you better show up with something in your hand. All right, bring it. Now, is this referring to money, or is this referring to showing up with some flatbread? But of course, we know this is in reference to showing up with some kind of offering to this guy, because this guy needs to have his food, he needs to have his barbecue, he needs his money, all that stuff. Celebrate the festival of harvest with the first fruits of the crops you sown in your fields. Celebrate the festival of gathering, at the end of the year, when you gather your crops from the field. Understand? Celebrate the fact of your first fruits and your first. But we know that this is a first fruit one is in reference to previous chapter where you're talking about the first fruits are to be given to God. The firstborn children are to become priests. Firstborn males, be specific. Firstborn males are to become priests, be given to God. Not given to this guy. So we know that that's what he's actually referring to in this first fruits. And you want to make sure that every year you have a reminder that you are supposed to pay attention to him, and that everything that you have, everything that comes, is because of him. And nothing to do with the laws of nature, nothing to do with planting a seed, but God is nature. If without God, none of those things can happen. But you can't prove that this is the God, and this is your God, and this is the one. This is the inerrant word of God. So where were we? 3 times a year, all the men are to appear before the sovereign Lord. Now that's the capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. Just all 3 times a year, the men. No women, just the men. That would be a boring ass party, but that's just the men in order to appear before the sovereign Lord. Now, of course, in today's world, they say that these men just go to the synagogue because this is where the sovereign Lord is living. But at their time frame, because they were a small group, and it kind of reminds me of how the Jehovah's Witness started. When Jehovah's Witness started, they said that the first 144,000 people who become Jehovah's Witness will be the ones who are the 144,000 that are marked. Once those numbers went beyond that, they had to adjust the religion. In similar ways, they did things like that back then. Okay, you're supposed to appear to the sovereign Lord in right there in Israel. Well, technically they're not in Israel yet, but in Israel. But of course, as the population grew, it's wherever the synagogue is. Do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast. Right? The fat of my festival offerings must not be kept until morning. So you got to get rid of it, got to consume it. Bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord, your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Like, where the hell did that come from? I mean, thank you. It's bad enough that you're sacrificing a goat to some imaginary deity, but that requires sacrifice of animals. But thank you for at least not boiling it in his mother's milk. Could you imagine the trauma of the mother? But anyway, so we see again, this God requires that you bring it sacrifice. That the only way that you can show in order to show your faithfulness to this guy, one of the primary ways is that you got to kill animals and you got to bring him all your best stuff. You can tell that, and this is one of the things I'm going to talk about in the video that I'm shooting later on today concerning tithes. You can tell that Genesis, which was written in around the late 500 BCE, was written by the priests, that were in the kingdom of Judah after the Babylonian captivity. You can tell because all these 5 books are very priest heavy, geared towards the priest and the advantage and benefit of the priesthood. Right. And this is just another one because we know who receives these first fruits, who receives this goat that's not cooked in his mother's milk. It is the priest. And it's things like that we should know in order for us to really be able to understand why there's so many jacked up things about this book. Because when we understand the author, the authors, the condition of the author, the culture of the author, the mindsets of the authors, then we can be able to break this book down a lot better. So to continue. Oh, now we're going to get into this. I always thought this part was kind of crazy, but we're going to go with it anyway. The first part of it. See, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all the things I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. Okay, so here's the thing. You believe in this God. This God is sending an angel ahead of you to guard you, to lead you into what's about to be some genocide. Well, he's going to tell you he's going to do some genocide. He ain't going to do it yet. Why would you oppose him? Well, why would you rebel against this angel? You not saw the Red Sea split. You not saw him throw a stick into some water and the water turned good water. You not ate some insect poop. Well, you still eating insect poop, right? Well, you ate some insect poop, but you said that you're going to eat manna for the 40 years. You've hit a rock and a river flowed out the rock. An angel is ahead of you, tells you what to do. Y'all going to rebel against it? I always thought that was filler information. Like we need to put it in there. Or, got to add more volume to this or something. Look at what he did to Job. Yeah, see that Job story. We definitely will do the book. Well, we'll probably do the book of Job. I'm not guaranteeing we're doing every book of this Bible, because some of this stuff, like Chronicles, would drive me insane. Boring. All right. So continue. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. These people are minding their own business, living, doing their thing. They got babies, they got families, they got everything. They just doing their thing. These people are so egotistical and propagandized with their Bible that it's okay for them to say that they genocide entire communities. Like, and it's a good thing to them. Oh, it's a good thing that our God. But back in their day, that's what they did. That's how they thought, that God led them to their victories of their genocidal tendencies. We still have genocidal tendencies today. We just use nationalism and the idea of resources or defending democracy as our reason and rationale, instead of just saying God sent us to go do this. Because if we still were like this, we'd be like, oh, that show, The Handmaid's Tale, where I think they were so still in our modern day time, but overly God-centric. I never watched the show, just heard things about it. So I could be wrong. About that. We have to go over the Gospel of Thomas. That is planned, Jeremy. That is planned. So if you ain't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Share the channel. And y'all should be sharing these videos anyway. And I know that y'all do, and I greatly appreciate it. But keep sharing the channel. That's how we make it go. All right. Do not bow down to their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones into pieces. So go in there and just tell all their stuff. Don't respect what they did. There's no separation of church and state here. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessings will be on your food and water. You ready for some bullshit? I will take away sickness from among you, and none will miscarry, or be barren in your land. And I will give you a full lifespan. Well, we know God lied on that one, because we know that they are going to have miscarriages, and they had miscarriages. We know that they had diseases, and they still had diseases. We know that people who follow this book, they still have all these issues. They still get sick. Christians get sick. Jews get sick. All of them. But people will say, well, this is only for those people at those times. And during that time frame, nobody miscarried. Prove it. Prove that nobody miscarried during that time. How can you prove it? The only thing you have is that somebody wrote that God said it. But you can't prove that during that time frame, while there was 40 years, that nobody had a miscarriage, that nobody got sick. You can't prove that. You're going based on what this just says. So I could say anything, and you can just accept it as it was only for those people. But if this book is for all times, all people, then that should count as well. But it is only talking about those people at that time frame. But there is no proof that ever happened, or that they had full lifespan. And they couldn't have had full lifespans anyway, because some people died in their assaults on other people. So everybody didn't get a full lifespan. So even in that, he lied. I will send my terror ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all your enemies turn their backs on, even though you fought wars against them. I will send the hornet ahead of you and drive the Hivites, Canaanites, and the Hittites out of your way. So I'm going to send, that's mean as hell. I'm sending hornets. Have y'all ever, a hornet is big. Them motherfuckers sting, that hurt. That's rude. But he's going to send the hornets, You got mountain lions, you got like snakes, you got all kind of stuff. But no, you want to see hordes of hornets come flying in. That's torture, man. That's torturous. That's, how much torture that would be. That would be like if you ever saw the video where the army ants be invading people's villages and them jokers be. That's like that. But hornets, flying hornets. Anyway, just the image in my head. So let me move on. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land will become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. So if you did drive them out instantly, you're God. You could drive them out. This is only a 10-day walk for these people. So technically, this guy could drive them out immediately, and then they can come in immediately, which then the land wouldn't be unkept for a year, which would allow for animals and the land to have overgrowth and all that sort of thing. You're God. You should be able to just kick them out and your people move in the next day. What's the problem here, bro? But instead, 40 years. So you have to make up. So that's why we get later on, not in this chapter or the next, but we get into the whole golden calf, because you got to figure out a way to punish these people so that it can take some time. That way, this guy doesn't have to do it immediately. Gives him an escape. He becomes his own scapegoat. So at the land, little by little, I will drive them out before you, until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. So basically, I'm going to slowly starve, slowly harass, torture the other people to weaken them until you become big enough to conquer these people. Now, I want y'all to understand something. According to this story, there are 600,000 men, able-bodied men. And when you account for old men, women, children, then estimates range up to at max around 2 million. If you got 2 million people at this time frame, we're talking around 1400 in the 14 and 1300 BCE. That's a huge nation. That's a big ass army. You don't need to weaken the people in the Levant. You big enough already. But it didn't happen. There's no historical evidence or proof, so we got to do it like this. And listen to how big the landmass is. And I wish I had a map so you guys can see this. But I want you to go on a map and look at this. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. From the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. So, y'all know the Red Sea. Go through the Suez Canal, Red Sea, right? Red Sea. So from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. Now, Mediterranean, it's huge. And from the desert to the Euphrates River. So from the Mediterranean all the way to the Euphrates River. Now, we know the Euphrates River, that's what Babylon, that's in Iraq. That's all the way into Iraq. The state of Israel has never been that big. Ever. It has never touched the Euphrates River. The nation of Israel, in all its inceptions, even when it was under Roman control and Greek control and Babylonian control, definitely not. But even when it was under any and everybody else's control, Arab control, it has never, the state of Israel, the kingdom of Israel, and even to this day, has never extended. So this guy straight up lying to these people. I will give into your hands the people who live in the lands, and I will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or with their God. So don't make a peace treaty, because we're just gonna kill all of them. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you. Because I'm telling y'all a lot of bullshit, and I don't fulfill my promises. Like I promised Abraham that I was gonna get him the land, but I didn't give Abraham. Then I promised Isaac, I ain't give Isaac. Then I promised Jacob, I ain't give Jacob. I'm promising y'all, still ain't gonna really get it to you, because you don't give them the land from the desert to the Euphrates River. So you just lie after lie after lie, is what this guy does. So this guy is just a liar, and it's propaganda. If this is Ty getting ready to come in, we can finish this chapter, because Ty is all right. Or Greg. Yep, that's Greg. So we can finish the chapter. Let me unlock the door. I don't think I unlocked it, right? I didn't. Oh, well, he's going to eat lunch. He must be meeting other guys over at the bar behind me to eat lunch. So We got plenty of time to finish this in. Got at least another hour. All right, so let's rock. Let's roll. Chapter 24 of Genesis, of Exodus, with Coach Renz and Why I Left Religion continues. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron who the hell is Nadab and Abihu? Where they come from? Anybody ever heard of them? Could we have gotten some character development, please, an introduction as to who these people are? Who are they the sons of? Just throw some random people in there. And the 70 elders of Israel. You are to worship at a distance, but Moses alone is to approach the Lord. The others must not come near, and the people may not come up with him." So we understand who's in charge. Abraham, then Aaron, then Nadab and Abihu, the 70 elders, and then all the people. It's the pyramid, the one at the top, and then flows down. When Moses went and told the people all the Lord's words and laws, they responded with one voice. Everything the Lord has said, we will do, because we're not going to follow the crowd. Moses then wrote down everything the Lord had said. Moses had one hell of a memory, y'all. One hell of a memory. Because there's no way I could have written down all that stuff. Some serious ginkgo biloba at work. He got up early the next morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain and set up 12 stone pillars representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young Israelite men, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificing young bulls as fellowship offerings to the Lord. Got to get the Lord his barbecue. Moses took half of the blood and put it in bowls, and the other half he splashed against the altar. Now understand, if you go later into the books, they're still supposed to splash blood on altars when they establish an altar. So when a church is established, they're supposed to splash blood. When you make somebody into a priest, you're supposed to be splashing blood onto these altars and onto the priests themselves. So, according to this book. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it to the people. They responded, "We will do everything the Lord has said. We will obey." But I can tell you in the next chapter that next week, they ain't going to obey. They're going to turn right back around on this part. Moses then took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, "This is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance to all these words." This is some brand new stuff here. Now, in all other accounts, Jewish people are to stay away from blood, right? But now Moses is sprinkling blood on the people. And let me make sure I said, Moses then took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, "Now this is on the people." So this will be all the people. Remind you, a few minutes ago, we just talked about the fact there's 600,000 young strapping fighting men. Even if it was just the 600,000 men, if it didn't include the old men or the young baby boys or the women or the baby girls, if you didn't include them, you're still talking about 1 million people at least. They killed, first of all, they are killing and they have to kill enough animals to sprinkle blood on 1 million people. Think about that. I live in Atlanta, right? Macon, Georgia is like middle Georgia. It's only about 500,000 people in Macon, Georgia. Spokane is, and the greater Spokane area is 461,000 people. All right, so we're not even at the number. I don't know where you guys all live. But I want you to think about a town that has 1 million people or 600,000 people. This Moses is 600,000 people. He's sprinkling the blood. I mean, hopefully he just splash. I mean, get it, splash, make it quick, or got a water hose on sprinkler system. And, because if he, you know what I'm saying, 600,000 people. Y'all believe that? Does anyone believe that he sit there and sprinkle blood on 600,000 people? No, that's bullshit. And what a great waste of animals. Those animals gave their lives for that. That's some bullshit. All right, let's continue. Moses and we're finna get into a big ass lie and a contradiction, y'all. I want y'all to remember this part, because anytime somebody is trying to convince you that you're wrong, tell you going to hell, and you say that the book has contradictions and things of that nature, I want you to be able to go to this. All right. Moses and Aaron, Moses and Aaron and Nahab and Abihu and the 70 elders went up and saw the God of Israel, and saw the God of Israel. Right? We got that? Under his feet, God's feet, was something like a pavement made of lapis lazuli, and a bright blue, and as bright blue as the sky. So lapis lazuli under his feet, God's feet. Talking about God's feet. They saw God of Israel, and under his feet, God's feet, he's standing on some lapis lazuli. But God did not raise his hand against these elders of the Israelites. They saw God, and they ate and drank. Doesn't this book say that no one has seen God? But we got 4 dudes and 70 elders. 4 dudes. Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, who we don't know nothing about, and 70 elders. They saw God. They saw the ground. They saw God's feet. So evidently he barefoot, or he got on some open-toed sandals. And they saw God and ate and drank. So the next time when they say that, this is a place where you can go and show a contradiction as to why you walk away from the book, of why you understand the contradictions of this book. Because they say that no one has seen the face of God. But we know we got Jacob wrestling God, Abraham washed God's feet and talked with him and brought him into the house and gave him some food. We know this is it's contradictory as hell. But here's another instance where you can arm yourselves against those people who just can't remain steadfast in their own religion and be happy about it, but have to force you to be wrong and join up with them. So there's another one. You know what's interesting? I haven't read this book. Really read this book at least 10, 20 years, right? This reading is strengthening even my resolve. My resolve has already been like, there ain't no way in hell I could ever go back to this religion. This just makes it even stronger. Like every time, it's like, you reread something and you come and you see things that you forgot. Like I've forgotten about this. I had forgot that this part even existed because it's been so long since I read it. And so when I was preparing for it and I saw that, I was like, well, I'll be damned that I forgot about that. But this is not just for you guys' benefit. This is benefiting me greatly. So I appreciate the idea of the process, you guys being here with me in this. So let's finish this chapter. The Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and commandments I have written for their instructions. All right, don't go up there just now. Shouldn't take long, right? Shouldn't take long at all. I mean, it's God. Why is it going to take long? Then Moses set out with Joshua, his aide. So they must have came down the mountain, because Joshua wasn't up there the first time, unless Joshua was one of the 70, right? But he just said to Moses to come up there. But Moses said, I'm coming, but I'm bringing my backup, bring my aid. I can't carry all this shit. And Moses went up on the mountain of God. He said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back to you. Aaron and Hur are with you. And anyone involved in a dispute can go to them. So, he said Moses come up there, but Moses gonna bring Joshua anyway, his aide. Then he tells them, y'all stay right here. Aaron and her, y'all got problems, they in charge. All right. When Moses went up to the mountain, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord settled on the mountain Sinai. So, the spaceship came down. According to Eric Von Dinkins, that spaceship came down on top of the mountain. That's why God got feet, because they're alien, according to Chariots of the Gods. And there's this guy who I saw him on TikTok. He was trying to claim that he's found Mount Sinai because there's these mountains that look like they were sitting in fire. But when you look at, zoom out, you can see that that's a natural occurrence for like hundreds of square miles in this area for this rock to turn into this burnt color. But they try, man, they try. For 6 days, the cloud covered the mountain. And on the seventh day, the Lord called Moses from within the clouds. To the Israelites, the glory of the Lord looked like a consuming fire on top of the mountain. Then Moses entered the cloud, and he went up on the mountain, and he stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. So first he had the cloud cover, and then he had to wait 6 days for them to get all set up. Eric Von Danigan, thank you. Appreciate that. But so he's going to go up there for 40 days and 40 nights. Does it really take 40 days and 40 nights for God to write his laws? I mean, I know that there are hundreds of laws that actually can wind up being a part of this book, but 40 days and 40, you're God. It should be like, boom, and there it is. Some people say that this was a test. This was a test of the people. You got the glory of the Lord in front of you, but the people failed the test, and this is why they had to do the 40 years through wandering through the whole deal. But the 40 was also there so that they can have the coming of Jesus and his 40 days and that sort of thing. It's 40 days of fasting and whatnot. And anybody who's ever tried to fast for 40 days, no water, no food, has always died. None of them jokers gonna survive that. You will always die. But this is also why people like Eric Von Danigan and others have read this book, and they say that, this sounds more like some alien, encounters. Because these guys have needs like regular human people, like regular corporal beings do. They got feet. He's standing on lapis lazuli, and they eating and drinking. They pissing and shitting. They doing all the stuff. So that's why. What, did y'all know that Ancient Aliens, the series, is in its like 16th, 17th season? I gave that show like 3 seasons. I thought, like, okay, after 3 seasons, what else could they come up with? But they still coming up with stuff. It's interesting. Now, some of the stuff is like, y'all pushing it. A lot of the stuff is y'all pushing it. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of the stuff is y'all pushing it. But I can see some of it. I can see the idea of some of it. But I am, if you've been listening to me recently, I'm more previous advanced civilization that was destroyed due to the Younger Dryas period. But then the sole survivors are the ones that these people are mistaking as gods and deities, and that Ancient Aliens is mistaking as aliens. But that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong about that. It could be aliens. If they are, they're horrible. They don't know how to run shit. I still be ruling. I still be running things. I would have never be running things still. Wouldn't be hiding behind human bloodlines like old Charlie that they just coronated in England. Wouldn't be hiding behind that. He claims we're the offsprings of aliens and apes. Right. I mean, that's pretty much what the Sumerian story is. The Sumerian story basically goes, there's a common ancestor. From this common ancestors, you get monkeys, chimpanzees, gorillas, and humans, right? So they branch off. So common ancestor, go down the line, branch off what becomes humans, branch off what becomes apes, branch off what becomes monkeys, branch off what becomes chimpanzees. Lucy is a ancient relative to the chimpanzee. She is not a ancient hominid. I don't know. I really wish people stop believing that. They've already shown that that's not true, that she's an ancient She's an ancient relative to the chimpanzee, not humans. But anyway, there is a common ancestor. Now, from the branch off that the hominids started developing from, the aliens or the Anunnaki came in and took the egg of a hominid and test tube babied it with the sperm of an Anunnaki, placed it into an Anunnaki female host, surrogate mother, and she was a surrogate, and then birthed out. It didn't go too well, the first version of it, so then they took the egg from the female of the one that didn't work out, infused some more Anunnaki in there, and then boom, here comes the second. They did this 16 times before they got it right. I think 9 of the 16 variations died. But the others would become your Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals and all that kind of stuff until you get to Homo sapien, which would be your Adapa and TT, who were placed in the Garden of Eden. So that would be the Sumerian version of it. Well, one of the Sumerian version. Another one of the Sumerian versions that all it still kind of fits the same. It was Dumuzi's, I think it's Dumuzi or Tammuz, it's Dumuzi's blood that they use to help make man. And that's like the only variation to it, is that they had to kill one of the Anunnakis in order to make man. But it is through this whole bloodline thing. Once you get Homo sapien, you can, and then, you know, you got the Igigi coming down, and they become the sons of gods who take the daughters of men and marry them. You know, they supposedly raided Marduk's wedding because Marduk was ruling Egypt at the time, and he wanted to have a wife, and he got a human wife, and they thought, oh, that's nasty. And so all the Igigi got them 200 wives and taught them the ways, and they become the Nephilim. And then after a while, the Nephilim start losing their shit, and then there's comes the flood at the Younger Dryas period. So you got a whole lot of mixing of bloodlines, and then at a certain point, Anu calls the council and said, look, y'all are fighting too much. Y'all are interfering with messing up the gold and all this kind of stuff. So take whatever humans that have the most Anunnaki blood and make them royalty, and we will rule through them. We're going to go down to Antarctica because Nibiru, it might be destroyed or something's wrong with Nibiru. But we're going to go on down into Antarctica, and we're going to live down now. But we're going to rule the humans through these bloodlines, which is why, like, the English people freaked out when the mixed girl got married to one of theirs. But some of this bloodline shit don't work, because some people became royalty because they conquered somebody else, like the Scottish. This whole, I forget which Scottish bloodline. They were regular people, and then they won battle. They became, you know, they started winning battles and had gained money and more people, and then they won and became royalty. So it kind of didn't work still. But that's also why they have a lot of that incest, trying to keep these bloodlines. But yeah, I know I went like way off Sheila. I took what Sheila said and just went all down. But that's how I study too. I take one thing that what Sheila said and then go down a rabbit hole. And then that rabbit hole got a lot of tentacles. Oh, you like to talk? Appreciate it, Jeremy. Yeah, I go like, give me this. I end up over here, but it's all connected. So now we're into we got past 24. I have no idea what we're going to talk about tomorrow. None whatsoever. Thursday, we're going to continue. We're going to get back to the Kabbalion. I know we started. My son called. I love y'all, but my son called, and he was to let me know that he was, he had finally got his duty station, got assigned to his squadron. So, and then was coming home that night. I mean, that Thursday was long. But it was great. Got to see my boy, my man. He's my man now. He's my young man. All right, what we got? So somebody said something about the Gospel of Thomas. We are pretty much kind of book clubbing it as well, because we're doing the Kabbalion right now. I'm sure that we'll probably take another one of these day, and we'll start going through the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas for a minute had me calling myself a Gnostic Christian, because this is way early when I was between 25 and 27. I can actually tell you when. Between 25 and 27. Thank you, Jim. I was, that's when I really made my last, like, okay, I'm really done with this book. I was already like straddling the hell out of it. But 25, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm out. But I had been reading the Gospel of Thomas during that time frame. And because I was reading the Gospel of Thomas, I was like, wow, I can still be a Gnostic Christian, because the Gnostics didn't view Jesus as God. But the problem was I still had to hold on to this Old Testament bullshit. And that wouldn't work. I think Christianity would have been much better off if it just never involved itself in the Old Testament. But I know it needed the Old Testament for the coming of Jesus. But if I was and I know the Romans kind of needed to keep the Old Testament, because what they were looking to do was to create a more docile version of Judaism, which is what they created. A docile version of Judaism that they can control, because the Jewish people were revolting throughout the Roman Empire, and those revolts were destabilizing the empire. And the job of the Roman emperor is to keep the empire solid. It is not that they had any favoritism. So, and then they learn how to use the story to control people, period. And there it is. But Christianity would have been much better off if it didn't have the Old Testament part to it. Still has some jacked up shit, but I don't know how. There will be certain books in the New Testament that we'll go through as well. But that's way down the road. Way down the road. But we will definitely do the Gospel of Thomas. I was saying all that to say that we'll definitely do the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas, in its Gnostic teachings, really, if you don't look at it as far as being Christian, and just take some of it and look at it as having a higher conscious thought process, and apply it to hermetic understandings and Taoist. Actually, it's much more Taoistic than it is Christian. Like it reads more like the Tao. If you've never read the Tao Te Ching, it reads more like that. So, because it's more about getting into the energy and the flow of who you are and how you function with the universe. So it's like a hermetic Taoism. I mean, then it does have its, Jesus is, all that kind of stuff, and because it's still being written from people who are coming out of being Hebrew, who are Hebrew. The Gnostic Gospels are good, but you have to realize certain things. What did I say? Bam, you saying it? Oh, bam, you're saying it now. I guess you was typing it while I was saying it. Yes. Yeah. Certain. All right. Anything anybody else want to talk about? Them two old jokers gonna be over here probably in about 30. We probably got about 30 good minutes before my old smokers get over here. But if we don't have anything, I'm gonna give y'all I'm gonna wait. I know y'all gotta type. While y'all waiting, I want to thank everybody for being here. I appreciate you guys tremendously. Make sure that you share these videos. I greatly appreciate it. On Facebook. Okay, let me tell you how this works, y'all. I was gonna wait for when I do my tithing video today, but you may not see it till tomorrow or the day after, or I don't know how many people interrupt me while I'm trying to work. although I greatly appreciate the donations that people make to both these channels, to YouTube and to Facebook. The stars that you donate on Facebook, I appreciate them tremendously. The straight up cash donations on YouTube, I appreciate. In my constructing of this channel, and in order for me to be able to do this full time, I never want to be the kind that depends on you guys to donate funds. That's not my plan. That's why y'all don't see me pushing Patreon. You don't see me pushing subscriptions, even though both Facebook and YouTube have subscriptions. You don't see me pushing those. I don't push those. I won't push those, right? Because no, the way that I am making both these channels work for me financially so that I can spend more time focusing in on this is by utilizing the algorithms to which they have set up in order for the company itself, Facebook, Meta, or YouTube, to pay me for its ad revenues and in-stream ad. Even though I still don't see, I've never seen an in-stream ad on Facebook, but they claim that there are some. I don't know. So the way that benefits is for you guys to share the videos and to share the pages and people to subscribe to the pages and share the videos and watch it. Now, lives on Facebook are not monetized. You cannot monetize those. The YouTube ones monetize, and the longer you watch stuff, the higher the monetization is. Facebook lives are not monetized at all. I am going to go back, and I know a lot of Facebook people, it's harder for you to find what's wrong with the Bible, Genesis chapter 1 and 2. I am going to repost those on Facebook, and you can watch those. And because there'll be a post, I can monetize those. But lives are not monetized. So when I post other videos that are just posted on Facebook, I need you to watch those and share the hell out of those, because I'm never going to ask you guys for money. Right? I'm not going to be like the preachers that we all walked away from. We're not doing that. So make sure you share these, right? Make sure you share them. That's how you help me to develop this, so that, and I'm not like trying to become like have 1 million subscribers. I don't want 1 million subscribers, to be honest. One of the reasons why I don't want 1 million subscribers, I want y'all to understand this correctly. I'm not a person who seeks fame. If you see me somewhere, somebody, Deborah, was supposed to come by here this last Saturday. I ain't gonna talk about the fact she didn't show up. We ain't gonna talk about that. We ain't gonna throw her under the bus like that. We're not gonna throw Deborah under the bus that she said she was gonna come here last Saturday and she didn't come. We're not gonna throw her under the bus. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do it. Mm-mm. But I'm just saying, if I see you guys, y'all see me out in the street somewhere, you in Atlanta, that's cool. That's cool. I don't mind. Come up, hey, speak. Let's have a conversation. That's great. But I don't want to be that kind of person where you can walk down the street and you can't do shit. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't enjoy yourself. You can't be at a beach and enjoy yourself. You can't be in a park and enjoy yourself. So I don't want 1 million subscribers. So I'm not looking to make it rich off YouTube or Facebook. But I do have a certain level that this needs to get to. And then before you get to that level, you guys got to share these things and y'all got to watch the videos and watch the whole damn video. All right. That way it grows, and then Meta and YouTube pays, and I augment that with what I make out of here, and get enough of that, then I can put employees in here, which gives me more time to spend with you guys. How do I donate? See, I wasn't saying all that for people. Donate. How do I donate funds to your platform if you choose to do so? On Facebook, there's this thing called stars. And I think every star is a penny. So if you do a star, stars is how you financially donate on Facebook. On my YouTube channel, it's just a straight cash donation. You choose the amount, whether it's like a super thanks, or during a super chat. But on any video, you can do a super thanks, and it's a certain amount, in whatever amount you choose. So those are the 2 ways that you do it on there. I know some people put their cash apps out there. I mean, I have a cash app. which is $, my first and last name, which is LaRenzoreid. See, I never post those kind of things because I was like, then I can't appear to be one of. I can't be one. I can't be like those pastors that used to just, they sitting up there just taking your money. And at least I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you. The money I make off Meta, the money I make off YouTube, yeah, I buy equipment and stuff like that, but it's also so I can live the lifestyle I want to live, but be able, and which that lifestyle incorporates spending hours and hours upon hours every day. Well, most days, I won't say every day. Most days studying, making videos, putting out information, digging deeper. It'll give me the opportunity to create classes. Now the classes won't be free, like special classes, special programs, things like that. So, but I need time. I spend 12 to 14 hours a day in here. Jeremy said, I don't mind giving. Yeah, you have an amazing day, Coach. Love your lives and share with and others content. Thank you. Appreciate that. You don't mind giving. I appreciate that. I'm not saying all this for that. I want y'all to share this shit. But yes, those are the ways. You're welcome, James. So with that, we are going. Let's study the book of the flying purple. C-Mac, I'm not playing with you today. Yo, my lady was killing me all week because I was like asking people, have y'all ever heard this song Flying Purple People? And everybody was like, yes, I've heard Flying Purple People Eater. So it was like, see, you're sheltered. You were sheltered. See, Mac, she on here and she gonna come and say something to you, messing with her. I have no one to share them to. I'm the only crazy atheist in my family. I understand. But even if you just share it to other groups or share it to other pages, or just sharing it to your page. Now, if it's going to cause you discomfort to share it to your page, don't do it. But any other group or just pages, that's great. Yeah, it's better to be paid from big tech. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. But I'm going to go ahead and end it right now because these guys I know are going to be here in about 20, 30 minutes. It'll give me time to at least shoot one of the videos that I need to shoot. At least shoot one of them. And then I can start working on that. I told you, C-Mac. She on there. But yeah, so let me shoot these other videos real quick. Even though real quick for me is 20 minutes each. Somewhere around there. And then I will see you guys tomorrow. I will make sure that I set my alarm clock correctly because I did not set it. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And we are out of here for today. And before the old men come over here, yep, it's all love. It's all love.